Mr. President, on Tuesday, President Obama released his budget for the next fiscal year. As usual, there was a lot of new spending that American people just don't want, a lot of new taxes that the American people can't afford. Now, it's interesting. Politico had a headline about the budget. This is Tuesday's paper. It says, Obama launches liberal offensive in his final budget. A liberal offensive in his final budget. It called the budget aggressively liberal. Well, one of the big aggressively liberal things that the president put in the budget is an enormous tax increase on gasoline. The tax would add over $10 to the price of a barrel of oil. Now, that equates to about 24 cents to a gallon of gasoline at the pump. This increase in tax would raise about $319 billion over 10 years. Now, President Obama knows that his budget has zero chance of becoming law. Not just because Republicans won't vote for it, Democrats won't vote for it. It's interesting, last year his budget was defeated by a vote of 98-1. Only one member of his own party voted for his budget last year. And now Democrats in Congress are running away from this gas tax as fast as they can. The problem is, this tax is about more than just the budget. This is a sign that the Obama administration is still committed to continuing its assault on energy production in this country, red, white, and blue energy. The American people understand that there are enormous national security implications to what the president is proposing in his budget. Right now, there is fierce competition in the global energy markets. The OPEC cartel has a strategy to win that competition in the oil market. It's been pumping out oil at a pace that's intended to drive U.S. shale oil producers out of business. Then, once the competition is gone, they want to raise prices. The best way for us to protect America's interests is to make it easier and cheaper for energy producers to operate here in America. The worst thing we could do is to add to the cost of American oil by imposing this new tax, $10 per barrel, 24 cents per gallon. But that's exactly what President Obama wants to do. He wants to raise taxes, and he wants to make it harder to produce American energy. President Obama's plan would actually help OPEC get what it wants. It would also put American energy producers at a competitive disadvantage to our adversaries in Iran and in Russia. Just a few weeks ago, the Obama administration lifted the economic sanctions on Iran's energy exports. That means that Iran can now export oil again. So, how much oil are they going to export? Well, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Iran right now has between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil sitting offshore in tankers. Today, Iran is planning to boost its oil exports to Europe and to Asia by 500,000 barrels a day in the next few months. And it's not just oil. Iran is also the world's second largest producer of natural gas in terms of its resources. Now, they're building a new export plant right now for liquefied natural gas. It's ready to about 40% completed, and they are ready to start shipping natural gas to Europe within 2 years. Russia is also a huge exporter of natural gas. That's one of the reasons that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. It was to get control of the gas pipelines there. And now it appears that Gazprom is prepared to start a natural gas price war with the United States. Gazprom, of course, is the Russian gas company that's mostly owned by the government, controlled by Vladimir Putin. A price war would help them maintain their grip on the biggest gas supplier in Europe, and it would discourage U.S. liquefied natural gas projects from ever being built. So, what's the Obama administration done? Well, the Obama administration has a documented history of delaying permits to American businesses that want to export our liquefied natural gas. Needless bureaucratic delays just deter energy production and producers from wanting to start these projects in the United States because it's so hard to get them approved, and that just drives up the cost. The administration's approach plays right into Vladimir Putin's hands. This is not the time to add cost to American energy production. That will only help our adversaries more, and it will make our allies more dependent on energy, not from us, but from places like Russia and like Iran, and of course from other OPEC countries. This is not the time to shut down the production of American energy. Now, there are a lot of far-left extreme environmentalists out there, and they want to make sure that American energy resources are never used but stay in the ground. And there are also a lot of Washington Democrats who are eager to give these environmental extremists everything they want. Everything. Last week in New Hampshire, Hillary Clinton was caught on tape promising one of these extremists, a supporter, that the end of fossil fuel development on public land, she said, is a done deal. The end of exploration of fossil fuels on public land, a done deal. Well, maybe a done deal in her mind. It's unrealistic, it's unwise, it's unworkable. Take a look at it. 41% of America's coal production right now comes from public land. 22% of our crude oil comes from public land. 16% of our natural gas comes from public land. And Hillary Clinton, in her speech, in her comments last Thursday in New Hampshire, said, in terms of any of that production, it's gone. Done deal. Mr. President, I will remind you that energy is a master resource. America needs the energy for our economy to grow. We need those jobs. Where are we supposed to get all of the energy if we don't get it from public lands? Can't power America's manufacturing on wind alone. Instead of building new barriers to American energy production, we should be tearing down those barriers. The energy legislation that we've been debating in this body actually includes ideas to help do that. One bipartisan idea, and this is the legislation, would be to help speed up the permitting process to export liquefied natural gas. It's bipartisan, of 6 Democrat co-sponsors. Right now, it's taking an average, after all the environmental studies have been done, after everything is approved, then it takes an average of another 7 months for this administration to say yes or no on the permit. That's after everything has already been approved. Why would it take 7 additional months to get a decision by the administration? The Energy Department should be able to say yes or no, and this legislation says they should be able to do it within 45 days. This is going to force Washington to do its job in an accountable and timely way. That will help make sure other countries have options of where to get their energy other than our concerns that we have about a dominance of Russia, a dominance of Iran, and the change of the balance of power internationally. It's time for America's energy policies to help American energy producers compete and to help those jobs and our energy security at home. That is how we're going to build our economy, how we're going to create American jobs, and how we're going to strengthen our national security. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor